Welcome back, friends. So we are going to start the second layer of this piece. I've enjoyed how this one is turning out. It sort of reminds me of a planet a little bit. I guess more when it's this way. But it's kind of fun. So again, no idea what... Oop, hi friend. That's my dog. So no idea what this is, what it's going to be from here, or even how much of what's here now will be visible at the end. But right now, this is what my piece looks like. And if you are painting along and this is where you are, and you just love it, great, keep it here. Keep it here and start a new painting. You do you. So I'm coming in with some cool colors. There are things that I tend not to do in my work. And so especially with these videos, I'm trying to make myself do them. Because I think it's good to force yourself out of your comfort zone. And, you know, I can show you how I do it and how it's uncomfortable, but you can end up with neat things. So something like this, doing a big pattern that takes up so much of the canvas, is not normally something I would do, but we're doing it today. So as you can see, this blue is very translucent, which means you can see the colors underneath it, where these ones where the white is there is more opaque. You'll see when I did that, some of this drift. That's okay. Sometimes paint likes to go on its own adventure, and I think that it is my job to facilitate and support that adventure rather than hinder it. So I want to bring in more of this cream, partially to lighten the blues that are there, but then also to make them more opaque. So the color gets lighter, but less see-through, which may seem a little counterintuitive. And when you take a light color and you start it on one edge and then just gradually move out, it will automatically blend that color from light to dark, basically just for you. I mean, you're doing it for yourself, but it's a very easy way to do it when shading or color gradation might feel kind of intimidating to you. If that's the case, that's a good way to try it. You just want a decent amount on your brush to start with. Like I have a good glob, and you want to make sure that you evenly distribute your glob. Not a phrase I expected to say today, but there you go. And if it's getting like this is a little maybe too all one color, as opposed to a clear gradation like that one. And if that's the case, what you can do is take more of your darker color, bring that on this edge. So you're keeping the lightest ones by the lightest and the darker colors by the darker ones, so that then as you go in to where they meet, there you go. See? You'll get a really smooth color shift. And that's super easy. You can do that. It's just put light here, put what there, and then, you know, move your brush in a semicircle. You got this. See, people just try to make painting seem intimidating. It's really not. You can do it. Anyone can do it. That doesn't devalue it. Everything has its own value, you know, outside of any external. But you can do this. These have gotten a little dry, so this is like pretty much completely dry right here. I show it to you on my finger when my finger is already blue, so it really doesn't prove anything to you. So one thing that I use matte medium for is to mix. Yeah, this got dry while I went and got water. There we go, that one's a little better. You can use it as a sort of mixing buddy, a mixing buddy. So instead of just using water to thin out these colors, if you use matte medium, you still get that paint texture to it, so it kind of spreads out and adheres on the canvas differently than it would if it were just water. I can show you what I mean here. So this is just water. Take some of these out here. This is good. This demonstrates what I'm talking about pretty well. So you can use either way you like. Let me just finish this out and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So for both of these sections, what I did was I had the dark lines and then I used matte medium to sort of smooth it out to here. And so all of this has matte medium over it that takes that gradation to translucency. And then over here I did the same thing but just with water. And you'll see how the water pools the color in the little dents in the canvas where it doesn't do that over here. So one isn't better than the other. It's just a different way that it disperses the pigment onto the canvas. So it's not anything you need to concern yourself about, but if you're somebody who's been painting a while and you're kind of curious what the point of matte medium is, or what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing and why. And sometimes I really like this style, so it's not something that I always avoid. It's just kind of whatever I'm feeling like at the time.
Now what I'm doing here is just bringing in some of this lighter purple and doing a similar gradation thing that I did with the white below. Just kind of adding it in, and I'm mixing it with the blue as I go. So you can see it's making this really pretty darker shade of the violet. When I add in some black here, you see how it really adds that kind of dark shadow and helps create even more gradation in my little arches here. Now all of this is wet paint mixing with the other wet paint, because again the first layer is dry, so now none of that white below is going to get picked up on my brush. Just a little bit more matte medium. That also will help reignite the paint a little bit. So if some areas that you just painted are starting to get a little dry, you can add some matte medium, or you can add a little bit of water, and that will help too. However, the matte medium is going to be more effective as far as keeping your paint damp or wet longer, to keep it malleable longer. So I'm just going to bring in a high contrast color just in big chunks with my thumb. So it can be very fun and freeing to sometimes just sort of finger paint. Like, allow yourself to enjoy the texture and the way the paint feels as it moves through the canvas, because you can sense how thick it is, and you get a sense of how well things will mix based on the amount of pigment that's there. So it really is another way to involve your senses in painting, as well as just being very just free and creative, because you're not going to get super delicate marks with your hands, and that's okay. That's actually very, very fun and raw, and I think that it's something that is often unappreciated. This green and red combination will feel extra vibrant because I'm using complementary colors. So those are colors that are on opposite sides of the color wheel. One will always be a primary color, which would be red, blue, or yellow, and the complement to it will always be a secondary color, and those are orange, violet, and green. So the whole thing with the primary color is no other colors can make yellow, red, or blue. Any other colors you can mix somehow with those kind of three, and then white or black, and theoretically make them. So that's just a little insight into color. It can be very fun to play with those contrasts. You'll want to make sure that if you're using complementary colors like this, let a layer dry and then start in with the complementary color, because if they mix too much, you'll get a lot of brownish neutral tones. Those can be gorgeous to work with as well, but if you're trying to keep your colors close to their original pigment, so if you want to keep it still being more teals, blues, purples, deep maroon colors, if you want those to stay colorful and intense and not kind of get neutralized and turn to muted shades of brown.
All right, I think I'm going to pretty much call this one not done, but done for now. I think I'm about done with this second layer. Just kind of finishing up my paint that I have out. And it's always good to leave out put a smaller amount of paint on your palette than you think you need, just because you can always put out more, and you don't want to risk wasting a bunch of it, especially when you don't really know what you're doing. It really doesn't, it's not advantageous to just put out a lot of a bunch of different paints. If you get going and you realize, oh, I'm using a ton of this green or something, of course. But just for your sake, that's a recommendation. I'm not great at always abiding by that myself, though, to be completely honest. I'm a flawed individual. Only in that I pour too much paint sometimes. Other than that, that's fun. All right, get some of this, and we're almost done. And if it seems like I'm just kind of throwing some of this paint on the canvas to get it on the canvas somewhere, so I'm not wasting it, you're right. That's exactly what I'm doing. Just kind of putting it somewhere where it feels like it should go. Okay. So there we go. That is layer 2.